The fate of a continent now appears to rest in the hands of these two people, Boris Johnson and Ursula von der Leyen. Do they strike a deal tomorrow or not? Today, the EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, appeared to suggest the trade talks were getting somewhere.
Important day, determination.
But as the day wore on, the only other hint of progress was the arrival of sandwiches for lunch. Tonight, just after 7 o'clock, a pause, as it was announced the talks had reached an impasse. In a joint statement, Britain's David Frost and Michel Barnier said, after 1 week of intense negotiations in London, the two chief negotiators agreed today that the conditions for an agreement are not met due to significant divergences on level playing field governance and fisheries. On this basis, they agreed to pause the talks in order to brief their principals on the state of play of the negotiations. When they met in Downing Street back in January, their talks were businesslike but amicable. A huge amount is riding on whether they can now navigate out of the deadlock. One MEP tonight said it was always expected the two leaders would get involved towards the end.
I think we should have been there already weeks ago, but that's the normal way of ending a negotiation. At the end of the day, you need to raise the matter to the principals, and the negotiators, who are also politicians, they are not civil servants, can only go so far.
Time is running out for a deal. On Monday, the internal market bill returns to the Commons. Its controversial clauses reneging on the original deal to leave the EU could scupper further talks. And on Thursday, EU leaders who must approve any deal meet for their last summit before the end of the year, which is when Britain leaves the single market and customs union, and tariffs could be imposed if there's no deal. The stakes were raised yesterday when the French Prime Minister visited the port of Boulogne. Britain has given ground on fish quotas, but the French say by not nearly enough. Today, the country's Europe Minister was asked if they might veto a deal.
Avec un veto.
Oui, chaque pays a un droit de veto.
Yes, every country has a veto, he said. But in Dublin, the Irish Prime Minister warned against no deal.
Given the enormous negative impact of COVID-19 on our economic and social life, the last thing our citizens need now is a second shock of the kind that a no-deal Brexit would bring.
Tonight, Michel Barnier is still in London, but his work is paused, while it's now decision time for the EU's top diplomat and Britain's Prime Minister.